Let's now discuss what some are saying is the best possible news for Trump about criminal sentencing, and others are saying, well, hold on a second. This may not be so good. The judge in Donald Trump's hush money trial, Juan Merchan, has delayed Donald Trump's sentencing. Trump's sentencing was scheduled for next Thursday, July 11th. It has now been rescheduled at least until September 18th. Why has this taken place? Because the court needs time to assess whether the Supreme Court's recent decision alters the context or parameters of sentencing a president, a former president in this particular case, for actions taken while and after he was president of the United States. Now, there's a couple of really interesting aspects of this to consider. First is, who does this benefit? There are those who say this is great for Trump. It's going to be delayed at least until the 18th of September, maybe even longer. He may not even be sentenced before the election. Okay. The counterpoint to this is that if September 18th as a sentencing date does hold, you could see Trump sentenced criminally, the first former president ever to have this happen, when people are really paying attention. Rachel Bitecofer, election forecaster, said after Labor Day, meaning early September, that's when everyone who's going to pay attention is paying attention. And you're going to dump in the true heart of this campaign, the sentencing. It could potentially damage Trump, reminding voters, wait, do you really want to vote for the convicted felon who's just been sentenced? However, if the goal for Trump is to get the sentencing delayed indefinitely, well, then we could be talking about a different scenario. Now, there is another legal aspect that I think is important to at least briefly mention. The argument made by the majority decision at the Supreme Court earlier this week with regard to immunity relates to Donald Trump and his time in office exclusively, that immunity only applies there. And the hush money case really relates to the things Trump did while he was candidate Trump before ever being president, and what he did while being president-elect Trump to some degree. In other words, if the Supreme Court's argument about presidential immunity is about what is done while Trump was president, it wouldn't apply to things that Donald Trump did before he was president. Therefore, there's no reason to delay the sentencing. The counterpoint is that a bunch of the evidence that was presented in the case was indeed from Donald Trump's presidency. The Supreme Court included in the majority decision that evidence of that nature cannot be used in court cases. So it is not an open and shut case that, hey, listen, the hush money stuff was before Trump was president, so there's no impact based on the immunity decision. There may be an impact. Judge Merchan now will have to consider that as he evaluates, does the Supreme Court immunity decision in any way impact his forthcoming sentencing of Donald Trump? On balance, is this probably better for Trump than it is worse? I'm assuming so as of right now. And the worst case scenario would be Merchan says, hey, you know what? I looked at this, no impact at all. September 18th, we're going to sentence. Could be the worst case scenario for Trump. On the other hand, it is absolutely conceivable that there are further delays, maybe even pushing this beyond the election day in November. And maybe just as, or more importantly, if the judge says, hey, you know what? This does relate to the Supreme Court's immunity decision, and I cannot render sentence or fill in the blanks with whatever, that potentially is very good for Donald Trump. Whoa.
Incredible. Oh, these people don't know what the hell they're doing.
I accidentally hit a button on my soundboard. That was not on purpose. Unfortunately, it's not my own feedback. That was Trump's feedback. I think that if I was a betting man, which I am not, if I were a betting man, I bet that this probably does help Trump to some degree.